what the press conference is about. So welcome, and on that note, I'm gonna give over to our LCC.
Thank you very much, Leader Ivan, and good morning to all leaders and everybody, and thanks to the colleagues that have come from the media. For over 30 years, SWAPO Party has enjoyed exclusive power to govern this country. Often we've questioned whether it has eventually, through legitimate means, been able to sustain the power base that it proclaims through the elections. We of course now know for sure that SWAPO has not necessarily obtained all the two-thirds majority that it obtained throughout the years past out of honest means. With corruption that continued to be part of the elite capture and part of the elite compact, with its inability to transform society, and with its extra arrogant SWAPO Party has maintained a powerful grip on Namibian society, and it is now coming to an abrupt end. Antonio Gramsci, one of the strong Marxists from Italy, speaks about the question of structure and superstructure, and then he goes on to speak about the question of hegemony. And he says that the interest and the mental approach towards society is actually that of the governing elite. And then he goes on to say that as part of that maintenance of power, including mental power over society, the historic bloc comes and does the legitimation work. What we now see as part of the SWAPO Party conspiracy is first, that SWAPO in Lubango has remained stubbornly the same SWAPO in post-independent Namibia. That SWAPO in Lubango that refuses to discuss important issues, that refuses to confront critical matters of society, remains stubbornly the same without having transformed itself into a fully fledged political party. This party, SWAPO, with some of those that were in fact involved in Lubango Dungeon saga, serving as ministers and in parliament, has, for instance, yesterday decided to thwart an important discussion on the question of national reconciliation. They have done so because quite clearly they have lost the debate, both in substance and form, in respect of the reconciliation effort. They have been drawn out nakedly, caught with pens at the ankles, and have been unable to draw up their pens to the hip. SWAPO is a nakedly lying political force that has destroyed the future of this country and is still planning how to further destroy the lives of Namibians throughout the Republic of Namibia, regardless of ethnic origin or of regional origin. It is therefore necessary that Namibians, in particular our young people from all walks of life, must stand together with the Landless People's Movement as we try by all means to deconstruct and unbundle SWAPO. It is, after all, a useless political formation of no substance and character, and is completely irrelevant to the future of this country. It is a party formed on the basis of the genuine aspirations of the people, but has become the problem in our society. Additions as part of the problem definition in our society should not only be poverty, inequality, and unemployment, but should be corruption and SWAPO Party as the fifth element in this problem. SWAPO is the problem in this country. SWAPO will not resolve the challenges of our young people in this country. SWAPO doesn't have the leadership, the political ability, or the moral high ground to transform our society. SWAPO is a pig that looks for the next meal regardless of who that can be. It is a blood-sucking organization that must be removed from the face of the earth. It holds unnecessarily Namibians at ransom. And as you could see, for the last week, the more they lost political ground, the more they lost the debate on substance, the more they found themselves irrelevant to the future of this country, the more they used NBC to screen history of how Semni Yoma arrived in this country, to screen the history that they think is alone to themselves of some sort of glorious past, hoping to get Namibians back into the fray that we freed this country, therefore do not desert us. They are doing so because they see quite clearly, and they know it very well, and they have said it to us, that they have lost the support of young people all over the country, and they follow social media trends as to where young people in this country have pivoted. Young people in this country have pivoted from SWAPO to LPM. And we particularly, therefore, thank each and every young Namibian who has expressed their support throughout these 2 months for LPM. Those in Oshakati and Ondangwa, Oluno and Otapi and Otsanti and Enana and Rundu and Kurenkuru, those in Windhoek here, in Gobabas, Wolfish Bay, all of the young people in Rehoboth, Mariental, Karasburg, Oranjemund, wherever, in Canada, in South Africa, in Botswana, in the USA, everywhere. We have followed your comments. We have seen your support. We are pleased with your support. You give us strength. You give us courage. You give us continued ability to speak up and to stand tall. Do not think that when you post on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, that it goes unnoticed. As you follow us, we also follow you. As you give us strength, we also pledge to do even more, to work even harder for you and for your interests. Those of you that are 23 years old, we know you are unhappy and angry because you do not have the opportunity to get a job. Those that are 27 who have lost their jobs, we know you are not satisfied because after you have studied, you are not in the types of jobs that you have always wanted to have. It is you who sits and is frustrated with the fortunes that your life will not be able to provide you because of the mismanagement of SWAPO. We are with you, and we completely enhance today again our compact with you to serve you no matter what. We will not be silenced by SWAPO. Many people thought that as we go into Parliament, that we will, sitting face to face with SWAPO, become friends, be bribed, and be sidelined and silenced. There is a rude awakening that we will not be co-opted by SWAPO, unlike some other political parties. We must, of course, also commend the unified opposition political forces that have remained solid in the onslaught of SWAPO's determined effort to undermine, belittle, ridicule the opposition efforts to participate fully in the democratic debates in our parliament. They have for the first time realized that if they thought that the National Assembly is the second home of SWAPO, that it is the National Assembly of the Republic of Namibia, home of every political party that is representative of the people, the sovereign of this country. And so yesterday, as in the days ago, you have seen that SWAPO, that was the mastermind of political insults and humiliation of opponents, has become a force that itself must now follow and swallow political insults. What we say against all of those individually is the type of language that they have never heard from other political parties. We will therefore intensify political and tactical insults and humiliation where necessary and where provoked. You have also seen that the Speaker of Parliament behaves as if he chairs some sort of a SWAPO meeting. Speaker Katjavivi must know that he does not chair a meeting of SWAPO. He chairs a political organ of state meant for each and every Namibian, and that the views of each and every Namibian must be filtered through that platform. His incompetence, his inability to lead Parliament, his inability to ensure that he defends the integrity of this House has come to the fore in an irreversible way. We move on. Many do not know that we respond when provoked. We are the most friendly individuals, and Couvé knows that. A certain Mareka from Tsumeb, fighting for his bread in Parliament, tried to intimidate and harass me. We invited him for a further discussion of that provocation outside the House, and we were very ready with the necessary tools of intellect to engage this colleague on the precinct of Parliament. He did not take up that invitation. He should have, and we invite him to take up the invitation for a robust discussion just outside Parliament there, so that we can see who will preside over that eventual contest. However, the Speaker had initially yesterday planned to ask Sebeb and I to apologize for the things we said about Nyoma and others. That's what we were told. And if we had not apologized, he was going to send us out. Strategically, just a little while after 2, we sent him a letter, hand-delivered, from our lawyer, warning him about a number of things. First, his incompetence, his selective application of the laws and the rules of Parliament, and his inability to put up the necessary institutional framework, in other words, the necessary parliamentary committees to ensure that the work of Parliament is done smoothly.
Exactly.
When he received that letter, he quickly turned around and changed his approach of apology and subsequent suspension to an approach of an oral warning against us. He knew, of course, as a historian, that when we said that Nyoma lied, that we were going to qualify with fact of historic nature where Nyoma has lied. And it is there for you all to go and see how he has lied. Still, Kasinga is celebrated in a way that does not reflect the proper history of what transpired there. Still, Lubango dungeons have not been resolved, and we will eventually table a motion on the Lubango dungeons.
Yes.
As we speak,
Yes.
we are preparing to meet the people who have survived the Lubango dungeons.
Yes.
We know that about 200 of them returned, but about 3,200 are missing. Where are they? What happened to them? The families want to know. The mothers want to know. They want to know where the bones of their children are. We are saying that in that motion that we'll be tabling sometime later this year, there must be a particular way in which that matter must be dealt with. Of course, we know SWAPO will oppose it, but the people, the nation out there, they will know that the Lubango issue will never, never be swept under the carpet, and those that are doing so will never have peace. What we have also seen yesterday is the substantive manner in which SWAPO was strategically outmaneuvered by the forces, including the alternative party and the opposition parties. How? When we decided to leave the house, the SWAPO fools decided to descend from the gallery and to constitute themselves in the chairs that are assigned to the opposition forces and the alternative party. We allowed them to fully situate themselves, to situate themselves on our chairs that are legitimately assigned to us.
Exactly.
And then, led by the women, and I commend Utara here to my right-hand side, Leader Utara. I commend Dienda, and I commend Jennifer, and also the young lady Ina Hengari, who were bold and brave. Of course, I was also with them there. Who said, let's go back. Let's go back. And we followed them. We followed them, and the SWAPOs could not hide their political and intellectual and moral constipation that they experienced yesterday. Immediately there was a constipation. Their breathing and their senses were completely constipated. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, every area of the SWAPO people was tough. You could see the masks moving very far and moving back because fear rocked the
illegitimate SWAPO. Then, as part of the shock therapy, we told them to move. They couldn't even move. We had to have pity on the SWAPO members that sat down. The colleague that sat on my chair, he was almost crying. I thought, I just had a pity for him. And we said, no, it's okay, please. We are dealing with some other bigger forces. You are brought here for bread and butter, you colleagues, all of you. It's your bread and your butter. For us, it's about social transformation.
Yes.
Eventually, ugly words were uttered against Ipumbu from Neef by a SWAPO female colleague.
Exactly.
And a brawl erupted. The question we are now asking to Peter Katjavivi is, when we spoke verbally in Parliament about a provocation, you said you are warning us orally. What are you going to do now, Mr. Katjavivi, about your colleague that started a physical fight in Parliament? What are you going to do about it, Peter Katjavivi? At the same time, we also want to ask this person, the Inspector General of Namibian Police Force, the police deployed at Parliament, we are asking, for whose protection and defense are the police deployed at Parliament in such huge numbers? Because the police appear to be targeting alternative party members and the opposition forces constantly. Besides the police that are deployed at Parliament, the executive members of government bring their bodyguards and drivers to Parliament. Who is a threat to those idiots that so much protection is accorded to them? They are killing themselves, by the way, by eating too much food, and you can see how they look like. They are unable to rest because it was a place for relaxation and resting. Parliament, from cabinet, you go and rest at Parliament, then you go to your gambrotas at night. That has always been the way they work. Work at Parliament, pretend to work there, come and rest at Parliament, and go with the girlfriends at night. That has been the way they have been operating. Now the rest part is now out at Parliament. So now the high blood pressure is also up. And some other things are now down that are supposed to be up. Who is going to be intimidating those individuals, and particularly their safety, that so much protection is afforded to these caricatures? We are asking Daitunga, and we'll follow it up with a letter. We will also follow up in writing the questions that we are putting to Katjavivi. What is he going to do with the first fight that erupted out of SWAPO party members? He must act on that. We then move on. The reconciliation debate we hear was closed down because of instructions from above. The instructions from above came as a result of the political party SWAPO, the Lubango force, the Kasinga creator. They saw that they lost the debate. They couldn't sustain it anymore. There are those that believe that if SWAPO had more young educated people in Parliament, that SWAPO party would be able to have a strong force to repel the capacity of the alternative and opposition parties. Let me put it in perspective for you. SWAPO party has sufficiently educated people in Parliament right now. Pea Mushelenga has many degrees, some of whom which I don't know what he does with them. They are chasing numbers, not content of knowledge. Shifeta is a lawyer. Lucia Ipumbu has a master's degree. There's a professor who's a deputy speaker. There's a professor who's a speaker. There is Sarah who has school. There is Netumba apparently that has school. Kapofi did some school also. Dr. Kawana is also some sort of a doctor. And there are other doctors, Shangula, who is now must manage the COVID issue now, together with Kaingo. They have sufficiently well-educated people. What we don't know is, given their level of education, who did the assignments for them that these people are just unable to create a strong intellectual counterforce? Who did the test writings for them? And who marked the assignments for these people? Kelvin, you are sleeping. Who did that for him, for them? They couldn't even write proper speeches in the budget submissions. They do not even understand theories and concepts. They just have no clue. So what does it tell you about those that are educated in SWAPO? That they can be educated, they just lack capacity. Secondly, that when you are in SWAPO, ask me, you actually become dumb the longer you stay in SWAPO. It's a fact. Jy word dom, jy word stupid, because the unwritten rules never show that you know something substantive. What you start to do for a prolonged period becomes part of who you are. And so they have well-educated young people there. They are just incompetent, just as the speaker is. They lost the genocide debate as well. The genocide debate is one in which we have exposed their plans. The Germans must be thanked today that they opposed this thing that SWAPO wanted. Here, through the Binational Commission, they were saying that funding must go to the trust of communities affected, and a huge chunk must go to this institution here. Our understanding is that 20% should have gone to the trusts here, and 80% should have gone to government, so that they can build desalination plants and schools and roads, and that they must then have budget support for the works that government does. They have a document that is dated 17 September, and the Germans rejected this thing. The Germans also don't trust SWAPO to be given any money. So we showed Netumbo these things. We challenged them because she attacked us that we are dishonorable. We went to radio with this thing. They want us to accept, and they want the Germans to accept an 80-20 principle so that the government can take the money and the affected communities will not get anything. And once they take this money, if they're given the 80%, we know what the fate of those resources will be. Elite capture will continue to privatize these resources. And we have said, here it is. They have actually taken one of the Nama groups to the meeting. Listen, to Germany. They have taken one of the Nama groups some time back to the meeting. When the colleagues came, the government was sitting with the Germans face to face. When the Germans rejected the offer, the Nama group that was placed off-site there behind the chairs, after the break, they were asked to assume the frontline position so that the government can go and sit back. They wanted the Nama community to go and explain that the 80-20 principle is right and that the Germans must accept the 80-20 principle. That day, that community said, we are not going to do it. That is how this process has collapsed. So we ask the German authorities, stick to your guns in respect of refusing to give SWAPO any of the genocide money. Don't make that mistake. Don't give to thieves and thugs, criminals, idiots, buffoons, incapacitated mental nincompoops. Don't give resources to such caricatures that will privatize these resources. The genocide is a serious matter that requires a serious approach in resolution and in substance. SWAPO no longer, and I underline, SWAPO no longer represents the interests of the people of Namibia in respect of genocide. When it was recognized as the authentic representative of the people of Namibia then, they became arrogant and mismanaged that trust. SWAPO no longer is the authentic representative of the people of Namibia. It is only befitting that the Germans understand that reality and ensure that they themselves also open dialogue directly with the affected communities and make SWAPO party only a part of the discussions, not the main discussant of the issue. We then move to demonstrate a little bit on the SWAPO policies that have destroyed the livelihood of our communities in Ojothonjuba and other areas. As part of our political responsibility, we have gone to Okagarara, Okanyatu, and Okamatapati over the weekend to go and see for ourselves the water issues in that community. We know that the water has had some terrible taste. They call it brak in Afrikaans. I don't know what the English word is. And as a result of wanting to resolve this problem of water shortage in that community, the government created a pipeline to supply Okamatapati and Okanyatu areas with water from Rietfontein. While that solution may have been a good one, what has now transpired is that our rural communities in that area are paying heavy for water usage every month. We went to 80-year-old Kuku there. We went to at least 10, 15 families who each complained that their water bill monthly exceeds 1,000, 2,000, in some instances 4,000 Namibian dollars per month. This is the SWAPO strategy, targeting of Herero communities and creating a layer, a burden that would impoverish our communities in that area. Why? Because communities now have water meters as if they are in an urban area. The water meters, once people do not pay after the writings are made, are closed immediately. Every month, therefore, in order to pay the water bill, our people are forced to sell either goats or cattle as if they are in an urban area to pay for the exorbitant cost of water. At the same time, they are also to pay for electricity costs in a village, in a rural area. When the drought came and when the livestock numbers dwindled, our people have even found greater suffering. And when the animals were killed, perished as a result of the drought, water was closed. Now you live only from your animals, for your livelihood, for the children, for your grandchildren. Drought comes, animals perish, they close the water. What kind of a life is that? What kind of a government is that that does not protect the dignity and livelihood of its citizens? They have also told the communities that there must not be any person that drills water in that area at all, even if they have the means to do so. Our people, therefore, and their livelihood has become much more difficult in Okagarara constituency. At the same time, also in the Topnar community in Erongo, they extract water resources from the Topnar community area. The water supplies drinking water, industrial water to Wolfish Bay. Along the pipeline where the Topnars are, they have put up meters, and if community is unable to pay, they also close the taps there. But you take a community resource, you force them to pay, and you don't give them anything in return, demonstrates basically the nature and content of SWAPO and its regime, and how it intends to further impoverish our people regardless of what they preach publicly and what they say is in their policies that are apparently pro-poor and pro-growth. In that context, therefore, we urge young people, as they have done, to join forces with LPM so that we can change this cabal in the regional and local authority elections that are coming. In the north, prepare yourself, organize yourself, and get in touch with our officials of LPM so that we can go and do further mobilizing and preparatory work. In the east, in the far east, prepare yourselves, mobilize yourselves so that come these elections, we can do something significant to dismantle and deconstruct SWAPO's illegitimate hold on power in this country. On that note, we come to an end and we are open for questions.
All right, we will take 3 questions. First 3 questions, and then
Sorry, are you limiting us?
first, it's a continuous.
Okay.
Yes, first. All right, Emil.
I have a question. I'm Emil Sirut from the NBC. You have
Yes, Emil, is it you?
yes, sir. You have pointed out the incompetence of the Speaker of the National Assembly, and you have also urged him to do something about the physical fight, or to act on the physical fight. With regards to the incompetence or the alleged incompetence that you have pointed out, what do you want him to do? Or what reaction are you looking for?
He must go study the rules, Emil. He must go study these rules, the rules book, the Immunities Act and other things. Mind you, we were told by some of the people, staff members, and if they are lying, I'm lying, that he is actually the one that said that we must deal with Swartbooi in respect of the Utoni question. Him. And Katjavivi is the chairperson of the Privileges Committee, as well as the Standing Committee on Standing Rules and Orders, the key committee actually of the chief whips. He was asked by his teams there, how do you as chairperson initiate a process of trying to discipline Swartbooi? What happens if Swartbooi also starts to complain? 2-3 days thereafter, he calls the team and says, I have received a written complaint from Utoni. So they asked him, but what are you going to do if he also starts to complain in writing? That is how they started this thing of going to the lawyer to try and intimidate us, because the internal process, they didn't get sufficient support, because he as chairperson already became biased. Katjavivi is fighting for his bread. Remember, they didn't want him. They wanted Mutorwa, we are told, to be speaker. And on the last minute, Kenkop said, go for Katjavivi. Those members of SWAPO, Itana and others, have always complained when we were in SWAPO that we come from the school of Moses Shitendero, followed up by the competent school of Tube and Kuriram. Shitendero, at a very difficult time, was able to command the respect of all sides as speaker. Moses Shitendero, at a very, very difficult time after independence. Then followed Kuriram, Tube. Also, quality. He would call SWAPO to order, he would call opposition to order, and people would know this man is really trying to be fair. Then came Katjavivi. When I was in SWAPO then, he would be targeting people like Vipua every time. And the opposition colleagues were complaining then, and would be saying, but also, you are not fair to the colleagues here. They are making a point. It has now come full blown that we are going to challenge Katjavivi tat for tat, rule by rule, statement by statement, ruling by ruling. Because, even to adjourn the meeting, the House, he always has to look at SWAPO to affirm what he needs to do next. Every time. Every time. Of course, his other people are also just incompetent. You saw the elections, how they were just useless, these other people there. So he has constituted a very incompetent bunch of people, by and large. But there are very, 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 very strong people in number of other departments. This man has struggled even to allocate office space to political parties, but they knew in November who will come where. It took a long time to even allocate office space. They were busy for 3 weeks to install or reinstall or whatever it is they were doing, telephones and all of these things with apparatus and so on. He has not even yet started to constitute committees. There are 10 or so committees. How is Parliament supposed to work, Emil, if you do not have committees? Mind you, and this is the point you're asking, what was he supposed to do? You see, as a speaker, as a presiding officer, there are instruments of authority that you have, both moral, political, and official, that you can always call people and say, A and B, please come, let's talk. Please, colleagues, the way you are
engaging each other in parliament, please, man. Is there not another way? I suggest do ABC. Colleague also, please. He has not attempted to even call a fully fledged engagement between political parties as represented by the whippery to say, is there a way that we can really coexist together? Can we do certain things? Because if you resolve matters at the level of the chief whips will go and inform their colleagues in the caucuses to say this is how we've resolved it. Katjavivi does not make use of that. He wants to use the whip. Now the Swartbooi whip is coming for Katjavivi badly. It's coming soon, because he will be deserted by SWAPO on the basis of old age and incompetence and ruling and contradictions, and he will lose serious cases in court if he doesn't stop this. But I see the whip of Swartbooi catching Katjavivi from behind very badly, and I will be there that day to look at his tears, because it will be tears that he will not be able to stop if he thinks we are playing. So he was supposed to preside in a fair and just manner. Failure to do so results in unnecessary contestation. Listen, Emil, how does Katjavivi, with what I perceive to be 2 whole functional ears, 2 ears, he has 2 ears, hears whatever rough language is said by those on the left, but the same Katjavivi doesn't hear anything said loudly by those on the right? Nothing. He never knows anything. Yesterday, in fact, in law, his ruling against us, his warning, is actually invalid ab initio. When in court 3 accused stand, you pass judgment on 2 and you are silent on the other one, it's a miscarriage and it's void ab initio. You would say it's a mistrial in ordinary legal language of court. When he was warning us, I said, just raise the issue of Emil, of Mareka there. Because, of course, I was not in a hurry to go to Parliament. I had other things to do. I knew that his oral warning is nothing. It's invalid. It doesn't exist in law. You can go and ask lawyers. It doesn't exist. So he warned us. The media took it. But in law, there's nothing. There's no warning in law. It's ab initio. From its birth, it was aborted. It doesn't exist. That is the incompetence of Katjavivi. You are sleeping, man, Kelvin.
I have 2 questions, Kelvin.
Sorry, I jumped in too early.
3 questions for one person, or 3 in one round? I think 3 is enough. Yeah, 3 in one round, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can I ask?
Yeah.
All right. Part of the conversation that we are also trying to lead at Eagle FM is to try to demythologize and bundle the character of the new parliament with the entrance of new political parties that have got a temperament that is different from what we have seen as of late. You say in your presentation that we will enhance our strategic insults in parliament, and we've been at odds to try to understand the approach that LPM has taken as to what could be the strategy behind this entire character that's in parliament. Seriously, it cannot be something that we can just take for granted. There has to be a political strategy to it. So it's interesting that you've mentioned what you called strategic insults. What exactly are those?
Kelvin, let me just follow up also so you can take 2. You have also mentioned, I'm sure at one of your briefings, about the respect to human dignity. I'm just taking you back when I personally termed it as body shaming, referred to the fatness of Utone Nuyoma, and right now again you spoke about how people eat and how they look, and for that, to me, is also tantamount to body shaming. Do you perhaps take issue, or is LPM disgusted by fat people that eat too much?
Yeah. Emil, you must listen with care and with dignity. Hear what I'm saying? You must listen with care and dignity. That is the problem that we sometimes have with some journalists. Utoni sits on the other side and he calls us mentally ill. Have you attempted to look at why we are responding to things?
Exactly.
He calls us inferior beings.
And we went to Katjavivi and said, this guy removes the mask and he even swears at us.
He does.
He removes the masks.
He does.
Why would you think we will just suddenly start swearing at Couvé from nowhere, or start saying anything strange to Couvé from nowhere, or to you? Why would we? We are brought up like any children. We go to church, we say, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt love thy neighbor like thy Lord has loved us, so help us God, and so on and so on. So we are first and foremost well brought up human beings. Just look at me. I look very good as a person. Well brought up. So every action creates a response.
Yes.
Yes.
What people are not used to is the response. Let me just go back. When Nyoma said, white people must be hammered on the heads. Yeah. Nobody said he went too far, or very few people. When he said some other political party leader had anal sex with the British, I'm paraphrasing, people were laughing. When songs are made by SWAPO, cut off the tails of others and so on and so forth. You guys of NBC, you don't make documentaries about structural violence, and Galton's theory talks about that. Structural violence, selective morality, and so on. NBC glorifies, and now you are screening events at night, how Nyoma returned, and wow, the glorious past. In that glorious past,
Yes.
people were alleged to have been spies. None of them was proven. None of them. People say we are disrespectful. SWAPO in exile used young boys to unclothe and undress 80-year-old men. I will not give you the name. Naked. Women also. Sometimes the women were asking, don't you have mothers? Young boys were unclothing those in dungeons. And we have testimony of people that are alive. And they were asked, don't you respect us? Some of those young boys are key leaders in government. Some of them are rich people today. Respect for human dignity. SWAPO has not had it. Utoni has been insulting Nico Smith. SWAPO, the other day, Pohamba Shifeta said that what is DTA is a conglomeration of puppets. They still use that language. We don't have problems with people that are more meatish on the outside. We love our people, all of them. But in a political argument that is derailed by foolish elements, we have to pay you back kindly, Papa. We have to pay you back kindly. Because SWAPO had the monopoly of insults and people were laughing. State of the Nations, Sam and others would insult political leaders. They were not given that treatment back.
Journalists are insulted.
Journalists are insulted. You people are also insulted.
Exactly. By the president.
But you are not talking about this thing. You are zooming in so much on the conduct of LPM. On the issue of insults, you see, any intellectual discussion is an insult to SWAPO because the brain capacity is not there. So when we say strategic insult, and that's why the motion for reconciliation was brought in to test their ability to articulate this issue on a policy decision that they have themselves initiated. They couldn't articulate and defend and advance their own policy initiative. And the idea was to demonstrate how weak they actually are. In that discussion, we showed them that the models that you have used are the same failed models as was used in Zimbabwe. Many of them didn't know these models. We have also demonstrated to them that there is actually no policy. You should have seen the people of the library there at Parliament, how they were shocked at SWAPO members of Parliament running to the library there, asking for a written policy on national reconciliation. They didn't know. They said, where is it in the Constitution? Go to the preamble and other things, we told them. So the strategy is to improve the quality and the content of our arguments, to demonstrate a narrative that the ability to lead and transform society no longer rests with SWAPO. In fact, it never really did rest with SWAPO. It's also to demonstrate that numbers don't determine quality and ability to transform society.
Yes.
And their own SWAPO people came to our office and said, we have 63, but maybe only 10 or 20 of us are able to give some sort of a contribution. And that came from a former deputy minister who said that numbers don't matter. And we are demonstrating that numbers don't matter in the larger scheme of things, when ideas have to be tested and ideas have to be generated and ideas have to be promulgated and society has to be transformed. It really doesn't matter about numbers. Just like Helen Suzman, as a lone ranger parliamentarian in South Africa, kept the fight alone but with substance in South Africa. We have shown that with 4 people, you can already make significant impact. The third, basically, is to create a buffer of mutual defense and mutual reinforcement between opposition parties and alternative parties, such that we would not allow any member of PDM to be personally, morally, ethically, and politically. We will not. We are there to defend and reinforce each other, because the common enemy is inequality, poverty, unemployment, SWAPO, corruption. Those are the 5 challenges that we have. So we are, as part of the strategy, therefore, reinforcing a collective ability through the unwritten but the well-executed parliamentary coalition system that we have been able through the past 2 months to constitute. And it's a challenge, because there are at least 2 opposition parties that are basically cowards. They are cowards. They don't attend meetings. They are never there.
Do you want to name it?
No.
Well, no. You don't body shame opposition parties. So that is the strategy. The additional point that we must also be making is to show SWAPO that the element of fear that they have had a monopoly over doesn't exist anymore. We don't fear them. We are not afraid of them either from afar or from a near, and that we are unable to see any quality that they represent. They represent the worst in society, in any society. SWAPO is the ZANU-PF equivalent of Namibia, and they just don't deserve anything ordinary to be respected for. There are things that we are going to do when we take over power. One of the first things is that we are going to expropriate the SWAPO party building. Let them build it. They will build it. They are building. We are watching it carefully. We want to build them to build a very good office. Very nice. Because we have said that that office of SWAPO will expropriate it and create a new University of Katatura for our young people there. It will be a brand new university. So we thank SWAPO for constructing a nice university building. We will reduce them to some sort of kaya there, in some sort of area, because they are going to be a small political party, maybe 1 or 2 seats in the next elections. So the strategy is to, at the end of the day, Kelvin, represent our people with dignity, with strength, with character, with charisma, with consistency. It's important. There are other people, Kelvin, you would know, all of you, that appear like what is a spring can? Like a locust. When the rains are good, the grass has come out, that politician appears. When elections are over, that politician disappears. Where is that politician now? We are not like that politician who appears because there is an election, you want one particular position, and when you lose, you also disappear, that other politician. We are not like that. We are a consistent bunch of people, because inequality, poverty, and unemployment have been consistent challenges in our society, and we are for our young people who have suffered for so long. We have asked a meeting with President Gottfried. We are waiting for a response. We have said that the issue of basic income grant, the issue of Osengier, the water issues of Okamatapati and Okakarara and all over, even in the north, the canals there, the way in which NEM water is just suppressing our people All of these things we want to go and discuss with the President, including this new economic empowerment framework policy law that they have, that is basically aimed for the elite to take shares in white businesses. We don't support it. We don't support it. If it's empowerment, it must be empowerment, not for elite capture of private sector resources now. Yeah, I hope I've answered you.
All right. The next set of three questions. The next set of three questions.
Yeah.
Lesson.
My name is Lesson, One Africa TV. Seeing the fact that you guys have been in Parliament for the past 2 months, and you guys have had robust debates, what is your take on the Speaker? Because that story of John Matola becoming a Speaker, everyone knows about it. Do you think as LPM, John Matola would have been a better fit to be the Speaker?
No SWAPO deserves to be Speaker. Club. Finish and club. They don't even deserve to be in government. All of them. None. None. It's over. Game over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Emma,
Yeah, just my last question. I might have missed it. Maybe you have already pronounced yourself. I would just like to find out, because it's a very hot debate right now nationally. What is
Abortion.
the LPM stance on abortion? Maybe I've missed it. Maybe you can refer me to a statement if you've already pronounced it.
It's a very important issue. It's an important issue. Let us be honest with you, colleagues. We have a policy conference that is coming that will discuss all of those things. We have, as part of this process, yesterday convened some lawyers and some professors at our own initiative. Yesterday, Professor Yao and Vincia Kluter and some activists. Yesterday, it was chaired by leader Zana Kohima to filter the issues. There are difficulties. The issue is very sensitive, and women are forced to go and abort their children in ways that are very damaging to the uterus and to the ability to get additional or children eventually. There is a lot of stigmatization of women who abort. So there are fundamental problems, and the mover of the motion must be commended for bringing this matter to the forefront. There is, of course, a lot of other arguments that require us not just to focus on the consequence of the outcomes of social evils, but which would be eventually to abort. That is the consequence. But we'll have to go back and debate, as part of that, structural problems within society that lead, for instance, to unwanted pregnancies, that therefore lead to the need for abortion, and so on and so forth. So it's a multidimensional issue that goes and looks at what has happened to African culture. Why is it that people want to abort? But you'll also have to ask, but how are we dealing with trauma and stress of a mother that is carrying a child and she doesn't want this child? It again goes back to, but how do people go and engage in, for instance, I'm not saying that's the case all the time, but for instance, in unwanted sex? What do we say about sex before marriage, and so on and so forth? It's something that we cannot decide in one day. So what we have said is that we will have our policy conference sometime in August, September, and we are going to work out all of those issues very carefully. So our opinion now on the abortion issue is, let's discuss it. Give us an opportunity to discuss the issue, discuss it thoroughly, and once we give our stance to the nation, it is something well debated, well articulated, that will have to stand the test of time. There are ways and institutional changes that will have to be made. But our problem would be that if the debate only comes and focuses on abortion, that's our problem. That's our problem. You can't deal with social problems at the point of the consequence of so many other things that have gone wrong. You have to put the debate back and bring it in perspective and address structural challenges, correct those structural challenges, and therefore perhaps you may not need to come here at the point of, do we abort, do we not abort, and so on. Of course, there are medical grounds that the law currently allows for abortion. I mean, it's also a question of, do we protect the secular state? Because some of the arguments against abortion are very religiously rooted. but the state is secular. How do you deal with that matter? You have this question of access. So many tests have to be done, for instance, to verify whether to abort or not. But someone was asking, but should men be the ones speaking about abortion? Those are also issues. You don't carry the child, the fetus. Should you be the ones talking about it? Is it correct for that person to approach it like that? There are other issues. What about the rights of women? Why is it a problem that the rights of women to decide on their lives is being either ridiculed or diminished and so on? So the policy conference really, Emil, will help us to filter through all of these things. We want to take a very, very thorough view, as we always do about issues. We are not these political parties where the leader of the party just makes a comment and therefore people decide that that's the policy decision. We have to iron out things at a higher level of insult, which is for SWAPO intellect. Insult is equal to intellect for SWAPO. At a higher level, we have to deal with these things. Yeah, we are done, huh?
I think so, yeah.
Mumbu, today you're not asking. You're not asking. Well, thank you, those of you that have come. It's a new day. Just check carefully. NBC, just check carefully. There is no more sleep for the old SWAPO cabal, criminal cabal. There's no more sleep. There shouldn't be sleep. They wanted to switch off NBC, but they are also pressed by that issue. But we will also say thank you to those of you that are covering things nicely. Yeah, and so on. Yeah, Mumbu,
you are late.
You are late, Mumbu, man.
I came in a bit late.
You're always late.
Always.
Yeah, not always. No, the invite we received said you guys were in Parliament, and then I had to be in.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry, Mumbu.
In any case, I think
It's not true. It's not true.
Then one of the words that keeps popping up in every conversation is to say no. You are an angry person.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I want you to respond to that. The way you, perhaps, according to some people, how you conduct yourself. You are an angry person when you see Tony Nyoma, you just want to fight.
Yeah. No. We are very happy.
Yeah, so maybe whether you need anger management courses or maybe can you address that? And then perhaps your comments on the founding president. When you stand here right now, what do you on Nyoma throughout his contribution to the liberation struggle, him being our president for 15 years and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these guys were close to Jonas Savimbi, but they abandoned Savimbi and they are telling another story. These guys were involved in Kasinga. There's another story told about Kasinga. These guys created Lubango, saying people are spies, and today they have provided no evidence of who the spies were and so on. Oevo and others have written books about it. None of them have challenged that. And our opinion of Nyoma is as low as can be. I don't know how people want to impose biology on us. How do you call somebody father of the nation? It means he has done what now? My father is in Ketmosop, your father is where he is, his father is where he is, his father is where he is, father of the nation. As if Nyoma founded this nation. So where was this father that when people were killed, the genocide question, and where was this father?
Exactly.
Where's this father, so-called father, when land issues are spoken of? He's quiet, his son,
Housing
who is supposed to be our brother, Utoni, says that we are going to deal with those that want land as we dealt with apartheid and so on. So Nyoma is a nothing and nobody for us. He represents nothing that we like. He is nothing that we like. He is a nobody. He is somebody who is a qualified nothing. We have no respect for him. He was part of the commencement of the mismanagement of the resources of this state. He has been the one that started to create black on black division. He's been the one that has basically continued to serve the interests of the imperialist forces, which at times he apparently would condemn. He is the one that has basically divided our society. He is the one that, and as we are speaking now, they are trying to bring destruction to Nudo by planting military forces, military bases in Omaheke, additional in Amanus and so on for the next election. We got it from inside that they want to bring at least 5,000 soldiers into the Amanus area so that Nudo does not have sufficient support there. That is Nyoma's legacy. Division, hatred, arrogance, unrepentance, lack of respect for different views and opinions. And if we thought the Nyoma in retirement is a better man when he was in government, we were so mistaken. Him and Lucas Hifikepunye Bohamba, who couldn't write until a later stage, was illiterate until a later stage, came from the north and said to our people that you are not going to, those of you that talk of land, ancestral land, forget it, you're not going to get your land back. Why should we respect this person? You know, SWAPO thinks that we must respect their leaders. And they think that their version is a version that must be the only one. Many of the things that we spoke about Mumbu, the things we said about Nyoma, was in the context of a political discussion in Parliament. If our BC and you don't agree with it, bring your version. It's a political debate.
Bring facts.
Bring your facts to the table, and we live side by side, disagreeing on the narrative, but we are still citizens. We still cooperate where we need to be.
Yeah.
But SWAPO wants so much to impose their version. If tomorrow they identify a cockroach as a national hero, we must also now glorify a cockroach, a jackal, as a national hero. I think that is the problem, the cognitive inability for them to distinguish how times have moved and how narratives are being unbundled and dismantled, and that other members of society have become brave enough to talk about their own different narratives and their own perspectives in front of them, because they wanted so much for the truth to be hidden all the time, and they can't face it. They are tormented by our presence and by our utterances there. And at the time of the tormentation of SWAPO, they have lost moral high ground, moral political authority. They are beginning to lose political space very fast. They are losing that political space. That is why they brought in a very dirty guy, Vilo, to be Minister of Defense. This chap thinks he can intimidate people. My friend, be careful. Be careful. This nonsense that Jerry was talking about, Caspers and so on, he's also, of course, a spent force, a kanjo. And when he was speaking about things, and of course it's very late, about how people in Gibeon, Isaacs and so on, he knows them about SWAPO. When independence came, Ekanjo decided to be such a ultra SWAPO, forgetting people that played a role in his life in Gibeon. Now, afterward, he wants to now say, yeah, Isaacs, I know the parents, the family is all SWAPO and so on. And then when we said, yeah, you must speak like that, he said, I'm SWAPO comrade. So we are going to be very funny with Ekanjo also. He must get it. It's coming for him. Ekanjo, how useless he was as a youth minister, how pathetic his political campaign was, how rubbish his outlook was on post-independent Namibia. And now you can see he has not even updated any knowledge. He tries like some sort of a Brenda Fassie 1986 Gazette to replay, futile of course exercise, replay event by event, location by location, the issues that apparently transpire. We are past that stage. What is Ekanjo's contribution to development? Of course, when I was governor, he played a very key role, I must say, to have me appointed there, Jerry Ekanjo. He played a key role in some development programs. He really also played a key role. But that's not it, Papa. Here we are talking of the nation. You were there to have Swartbooi as a governor. Thank you very much, Jerry Ekanjo. We appreciate it. Okay, fine. Chapter is over. What do you do now? So, on this thing of anger, Utara is telling me very nice response that 30 years of mismanagement can't be dealt with by a smile. So I must say, we have poverty, unemployment, inequality. We must address these issues so that at the end of the day, our people can get jobs. And therefore, you are stealing resources. You have, honestly.
Truly.
Should we do it? Then we are comedians, man. Mumbu, please. We have serious issues to deal with. We have serious focus to maintain on the issue. SWAPO, having lost the game of arguments, the Game of Thrones, things, disrespect, anger. Disrespect, anger. I have righteous anger, but I'm so much at peace when young people keep on supporting. When more and more Namibians are opening their eyes, we are happy. When more and more Namibians recognize what we stand for, when more and more Namibians eventually say, okay, so you guys are fighting corruption, you are about fighting nepotism, well, then you are the right people. That's what Namibians are saying. And we'll be angry on their behalf. We will be fighting on their behalf. When we have to smile, we will smile. But for this country, we have problems. We have problems. And these problems will not be removed if I start smiling or I start paying respect to people. We have been lied to. You look at Kawana's rubbish response on the fish rod thing. Rubbish, we'll still take him on. Rubbish. James saying, I mean, this is a guy that had money, that could eat all the nice food. But life in prison must be so good that he tweets about how nice the food is. Maybe the prison circumstances are also silly postdiabetic bags and some other nice things. Maybe they also get imported some cambrotos, maybe, I don't know. That is how they belittle this experiment called Namibia. It's our collective experiment. It's our collective heritage. And for too long have we allowed SWAPO to mess up our heritage. It's our heritage. And whether I'm angry or not, I have a space in this country, both as a person and as a politician. I have space. They can go right and right and right, but doesn't matter. They have now a story in the Namibian, and I'm happy that we are now making fun